Yeah. All right. I'm just playing. It's another video. And we're here to talk about the disrespect of previous eras. Now, here's the thing. What I do versus what they do is two different things. You know, the current generation will disrespect the generations like the 60s, the 70s, call them plumbers and call them skillers. They're going as far as to disrespect the 90s and 2000s who made what this basketball turned into, basically. And then also just blatantly disrespecting guys like the Bill Russells, like the Bob Cousy's, the Wilt Chamberlains, the Larry Birds, the Magic Johnsons, the Michael Jordans, the Vince Carters, the Allen Iversons, the Kobe Bryants. Just blatant disrespect to these guys that paved the way so that this current generation can get these contracts, so that the current generation can get all this endorsement money. And Anthony Edwards is no stranger of this behavior. You have to realize that Ant-Man is young. And I'm sure that once he matures, I think he's going to regret those comments. But you gotta look at the quote. Okay, this is what he said. I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. Oh, really, nigga? See, that should shut everything down that you have to say about that. Because you said, I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. So why the fuck you speaking on it then if you didn't watch back in the day? I watched back in the day. When a nigga ain't have cable, NBA on NBC, that was my cartoons. Alright? That was my conjunction junction. What's your function? They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one that really had skill, you know what I mean? Right? And this is disrespectful because how the fuck you gonna comment about something you don't know, my nigga? What part of the game is that? What part of the game is that? I could see if you knew what you was talking about, you actually went out and researched. But the fans and the OGs, they clapping back at Ant-Man. Magic Johnson said that I never respond to a guy who's never won a championship. He didn't win a college championship. I don't even know if he won a high school championship. Yikes. Because Magic Johnson was one of those guys that was around when Michael Jordan was around. And I can tell you, every era, every fucking guy that had skills back in the day, as long as Jordan was playing, because Jordan was drafted in what, 84? All right, let's talk 84 to 90. Like, I'd say Larry Bird was skilled. I could say Kevin McHale was skilled. I could say Robert Parrish was skilled. I could say Dennis Johnson was skilled. That's just one team. Dominique Wilkins had skill. Julius Erving, to an extent, had skill. Kareem had skill. Magic, James Worthy, Isaiah Thomas. This is just 84 to 90 we speaking on, right? Scottie Pippen had skills. Even the young Scottie Pippen. Fuck is we talking about here? Adrian Dantley had skills. Mark Aguirre. What is we talking about here? What do you mean by skills? Reggie Miller had a solid skill set. Like, bro, what is you talking about, dog? We talk about 84-90, just 84-90. Now in the 90s, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Gary Payton, Shawn Kemp, motherfucking Grant Hill, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Penny Hardaway, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, Charles Barkley, Kevin Garnett. Then, of course, 2000s, Kobe Bryant, obviously. Tim Duncan. You know what I'm saying? These were the guys that were around when Jordan was around. David Robinson, to an extent. Like, Dennis Rodman had all the defensive skills, not much offensive skills. But again, your definition of skill, Ant-Man didn't, answer or give his definition of skills. I've given it before. I'll give it one more time. Skills are attributes that you develop and end up mastering. And that could be any combination of skills. That could be any combo of skills. And then Kevin Garnett had something to say about Ant-Man. Oh yeah, I'm forgetting Paul Pierce too, who had the skills. But KG had something to say. And I'm going to get into what he had to say as well. Garnett said that, if I'm being honest, bro, I don't think anybody in this generation could have played like 20 years ago. 20 years ago, bro, you couldn't get to a triple step back. You hear what I'm saying? You couldn't get to a triple step back, and if you shot that shit, it had to go in. You know why? Because we had efficiency back in the day, my dude, and it was so fucking hard. Pause. It was too physical. And guess what? The league had to come up off it for the flow of the movement to be able to have the scoring go up, which is why we like to sit here and watch the kind of rat race of the high-paced game right now. Okay, so my thoughts on that is, I think there are plenty of players in this generation that could have played back then. I'll name the guys, right? I'll just use my top 50. Fuck it. I think Anthony Edwards could have played back then because Anthony Edwards can play half court. Luka probably would have been like Sarunas Marciulionis or Manu Ginobili. Young Manu. I think Jokic definitely could have played back then, but he would just get abused defensively, though. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander probably could. Jaylen Brown. Embiid had the skill set for back then, but I don't think his body would have held up. Giannis definitely could have played back in the day. I think LeBron, well, I don't know. He said this generation. So LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, all those guys are a previous generation. I think Paolo Banchero could have played back in the day. I think Bam Adebayo could have played back in the day. I'm just talking about this generation of dudes. Zion had the perfect look for back in the day. Julius Randle, I think he could have played back in the day. He had a Zach Randolph type of game. And he has the mentality. Other than that, yeah, he's talking about this generation, like the young cats. Yeah, it's a handful of guys that could, but not everybody. So I think he's partially right. But here's the problem, though. I think everybody is going to stand by their generation, even if it means disrespecting the other generations in the process. Now, I get accused of disrespecting the current generation because of the lacking of defense, the lacking of the presence of defense, and sportscasters and podcasters overrating the skills of the current generation. And I can relate to what Kevin Garnett said. Kevin Garnett is saying that you can't get to your shit back in the day because, you know, they scouted you. The defense was a little bit more prominent and more of a requirement, whereas now you don't really have to play defense. You just have to have an excellent offensive skill set, or just have one skill in particular, and then you can survive 14, 15 years. That's if you don't get hurt. And I always say that this generation and the previous one with LeBron and Wade and all those guys, you know, they were fortunate enough to play 17, 18, 19 years because the physicality of the game dwindled over the years. So a lot of guys were able to recover from certain injuries that they wouldn't recover from. Why you think Grant Hill was able to play like another 7-8 years after he dealt with multiple injuries? The physicality of the game changed. And me criticizing the lacking of defense is not disrespecting the generation at all. I'm just calling it by what I see it. This generation of players are very skilled. But my disconnect is there isn't enough players out there with a defensive skill set that can challenge these guys. And then also rule changes in favor of offense. Rule changes that was a detriment to defense, like the hand checking, the defensive 3 seconds, illegal defense. You know, a lot of rules changed to where you can't be as physical with these guys. Like, I feel like the peak of NBA defense was the 2000s. I wish that there was a way that you could see like the 2000s defenders versus the most top skilled cats of this generation. And some of them niggas would fold. I'm not going to hold you, pause, but they would. And, you know, I just don't like when particular generations get disrespected. Now, the 60s, you know, those guys weren't making that much money back then. And then, you know, TV wasn't in yet. So these guys would play ball throughout the year and work a job during the summer. And I watched this one podcaster, I saw a clip of this one podcaster, I forget his name, and he said that the one thing that this current generation can take away from the older generations is hard work. Because those guys, even in the 70s, some of those guys still working jobs after the season. Their salary wasn't enough to make money. Then once the Jordans, the Birds, and the Magics, and the Isaiahs came into the game, then the TV money came in. Then the contracts started to flow. But then as soon as just this generation comes along, where the money, you don't have to work that hard to get overpaid, that's when the laziness came in. That's when taking things for granted and taking advantage of being overpaid came into play. And that's why this generation kind of gets a lot of shit. Now, don't get me wrong, there was lazy niggas in every era. But this generation seems to breed laziness, or seems to celebrate laziness and second-tier effort. And I think that's where Magic and Kevin Garnett are coming from. Anthony Edwards' first sentence said, "I didn't watch back then, so I can't speak on it." But he decided to speak on it. The lesson that Ant-Man should learn is, don't speak on what you know, and don't let people know that you're speaking on something that you don't know about without researching. Research is the key. You can't just go out your way and disrespect something because you don't know something. And I'm also tired of people saying that the older generations couldn't dribble with their left hand. That's some bullshit. And I'm gonna say this to you baseless content creators, the ones that disrespect the older generation. Anybody can make a video of anyone's lowlights. All players have lowlight films. But what separates player to player is the highlights alongside the lowlights. And also watching the entire game instead of piecing together these weak-ass 30-second clips and calling it garbage because you want to dick suck a certain generation. The fuck out of here, nigga. Y'all know who y'all is. Y'all niggas know what it is. But yeah, man, I want to thank y'all for watching this video. The tale of Generation Disrespect. This King Known NBA Music Talk on YouTube, and I'm out.